King's birthday. We know that Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday became a national holiday, passed by the United States law, disobeying openly defined a national law and a state law. Let me call them again: Bethany, Choctaw, Edmond, El Reno, Forest Park, Jones, Little Old Jones, Oklahoma, Midwest City, Mustang, Newcastle, Nichols Hills, Nakoma Park, The Village, Tuttle, Valley Brook, and Yukon. If you live in that area, if you are black or white and believe that we should obey the federal law, I want you to get on that telephone and I want you to call your law officials. In the meantime, this is Clara Luper, and this is Clara Luper's radio special. And on the line I have with me Letty Ruth Hunter. Letty?
Hi, how are you doing, Clara Luper? And I want to say good afternoon to all the radio audience. And I want to ask you a question, but before I do that, you know, someone that told me that you were out at some place. I don't remember that they gave me the name of the place, so they didn't quite understand where you were on yesterday. And since I was listening to you just a few minutes ago talking about some defiances, and they tell me that you were telling them to open their eyes. So maybe this is a subject that you still need to talk about. Where were you yesterday, or day before, or whenever?
The day before, I had the opportunity to go out to the detention center here in Oklahoma City and speak to a group on Martin Luther King's birthday. It was an exciting experience. The program was well put together by the staff there. I had the opportunity to listen once again to some of Martin Luther King's great speeches. But our young people are out there, and I would like to tell this black community, a community that's known for its churches, for its ushers, missionary society, that during the last 6 months in Oklahoma City, 100 black young people, 100 have been certified as adults. I want you to know that there were so many black people, black young men, out to the detention center that I could not believe it.
Well, what was the approximate age?
The age was from 13 to about 16.
Oh.
And these are our kids. They were in our schools, they were in our churches, and we're going to have to get them. They aren't that bad. And I'm going to talk to on that later. But Letty, did you know that we have city leaders in the state of Oklahoma who are disobeying a federal law?
I just heard you say that. This is why I thought about calling and asking you about the speech that the people were telling me that the children so well enjoyed, and the subject was open your eyes, or something to that effect.
Yes, that came out of an experience that I had with my son, Calvin. I used to wake him up to go to school on time, and I would always walk in the room and say, Calvin, are you going to continue your education? And he really hated to get up out of bed to go to school. So one morning, Calvin decided that he was going to do something different. And when I walked in the room and called him, he started screaming and said, Mama, I can't see. And I said, Calvin, why can't you see? And he told me that his eyes were closed.
Oh.
And I asked him to open his eyes.
I understand.
And he opened his eyes and everything was all right. And that's what I want to do now. I want to open the eyes of the people in Bethany. This is a religious city, but they have defied the federal government and the state government. In Choctaw, Oklahoma, they're keeping the city hall open, and they are saying that we, as the following cities, will not recognize a holiday that's been set aside to observe the contributions of a black. Let me name these cities again, because I want to open the public's eyes as to what's happening. Bethany, Choctaw, and that means they don't want black people in that city. If they don't care enough about black people to close the city hall, that's Bethany, that's Choctaw, that's Edmond, that's El Reno, Forest Park, and I hope the people in El Reno won't spend a dime in El Reno until they recognize the federal law. I'm not talking about a local law. I'm talking about a federal law. I'm talking about a state law. In Jones, Oklahoma, Martin Luther King's birthday will be celebrated with City Hall open as if it's nothing. They don't even see us. No wonder Ralph Ellison wrote The Invisible Man. Midwest City, I can't get over Midwest City, and that's a location of Tinker Credit Union and all. Midwest City will take on business as usual. And during City Hall, we ought to go out there and picket it. Maybe this is what we'll do after our march. Go out and picket these little Jim Crow cities that won't recognize black. No, not a black night. It's a holiday. It's a national holiday in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Midwest City. Oh, let's go out there and picket City Hall. Mustang, Oklahoma. Newcastle. Nichols Hills. The places where we have worked. Places where people have left their children in the care of black people. And then Nichols Hills City Hall will be open as usual. But I can tell you one thing, business will not go on as usual in these cities in the 90s, because we are going to say you are going to obey the law. If it's fair to obey the drug laws, if it's fair to obey the kidnapping laws, it's fair to obey the law which states that Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday is a national holiday. But let me salute the cities that are closing down. Dale City. Thank you, Dale City. Dale City's offices will be closed. Harrell's offices will be closed. I want you to know the difference between Harrell, and Midwest City. There are so many blacks out in Midwest City, it's unbelievable. But the blacks out there, I want to open your eyes. Your City Hall will be open, and I want you to call your City Hall and tell them you don't like it. But in Harrell, the buildings will be closed. In Moore, Oklahoma, City Hall will be closed. Thank you, Moore. Oklahoma City, City Hall will be closed. Piedmont, closed. Spencer, closed. War Acres, closed. Now, Donna Hoffman, we used to sing, if it's fair for Brother Rabbit to wear clothes, it's certainly fair for Brother Fox. Lady?
I understand you're mentioning Hoffman. I understand that you're going someplace this afternoon to make a speech. Is it Hoffman where you're going?
No, I'm going to Boley, Oklahoma. I will be speaking at one of our correctional institutions at 4:30. And then on tomorrow, I'm the guest speaker at 11 o'clock at the Mount Zion Baptist Church. That's a church where Reverend E.C. Beatty pastored for 33 years, and now one of our Oklahoma City ministers, Reverend Williams, has been called to take over that church. Next week, I shall be extremely busy because on Monday I shall join hundreds of others in participating in the parade in memory of Martin Luther King Jr. We will gather at 9:30 in the morning on Monday morning at the Ralph Ellison's Library, and there will be a short program, and after that we will march to the state capitol, and then after the state capitol march, we ought to march on to Bethany, we ought to march on to Choctaw, we ought to march on to Edmond, El Reno, Forest Park, Jones, Mustang, Newcastle, Nakoma Park, Nichols Hills. I want to be in that march. Afterward, I think we'll all get together and go to these city halls and tell these people this is what we want. But then on next Wednesday, I have the opportunity to go to Taft.
Now, Ms. Luper, you mean you're going to Taft? Now, who are you going to speak to there?
I'm going to speak at one of the correctional centers. That's Jess Don's Correctional Center in Taft, Oklahoma.
I think I'm going to give you a new title. You know what this title's going to have to be?
What?
ARD, Correctional Speaker.
I love it.
I don't know any correction center that's within Oklahoma. I can say that you have not been in, and to top it all off, you carried me along with you.
Well, you're going with me. I had the opportunity to visit some of our inmates last week, and I had the opportunity to take you along with me. I always tease Letty because Letty is professional. She's professional. Now, she knows a lot about education and what have you, but she knows nothing about prisons.
You're right.
On
the jail.
On Thursday, January the 8th, I've been invited to Capitol Hill Middle School, where one of my former students is teaching, and I'm looking forward to that. And I'm really excited. God has really blessed me.
History of civics. Is this in social studies, civics, or history?
Oh, it's general, I think.
Oh.
But Lady, God has blessed me. He's opening up so many doors for me. I will be speaking down in Lawton on February the 17th at that Brotherhood banquet. I will be going into Kansas to speak at Bethany College or university there. I have so many invitations, and people have been so kind to me. I had the opportunity to speak along with others at a special ceremony that was sponsored by the Federal Black Program Council. They have some 18 federal agencies that participated, and this was all at the YMCA in downtown. Appearing on the program was Ken Talley, Kenneth J. Sawyer, a dedication group, which is a musical group from Spencer, Oklahoma, Reverend C.C. Carroll, the pastor of Emmanuel Baptist Church. I had the opportunity to see Ruth Robertson and receive an award that I'm so grateful. I had the opportunity once again to see that talented Wanda Dancy and all. It was really nice, and I would like to thank them publicly for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Because it was a wonderful program, and with the two speakers that I heard Reverend Carroll, and then following his speech, I heard your speech, and I've been trying to evaluate them and put them on the wheel of justice, or the weight of justice, to see which one would outweigh the other. But I thought they were tremendous.
Reverend Carroll would certainly outweigh me. But the main thing that I was interested in, I was worried because of an incident that had happened in Washington and California. They were having a frog jumping jubilee contest, and they had it for 39 years. But last week they had a problem because a young man had gone to Africa and had found some frogs in the Cameroon zone, and that is in West Africa, and he brought his frog back, and boy, it was a huge frog, and when the people saw that frog, they decided they had a problem. They wanted to see what to do with the frog.
Did they say the frog was too big?
That was the biggest frog they had ever seen in their lives, and they had some basic questions about that frog. And these questions were similar to the questions that they had about a group of people that came here on August the 20th, 1619. It was really I was worried about that frog, and there were 9 committee members who were to determine what was to happen to the frog.
But did it turn out to be the property?
Well, let me tell you, I was thinking about that because in 1857, there was another case known as the Dred Scott case where 9 white men in long black robes said that Dred Scott was only property and he had to be returned to his master. But let me tell you what happened. Those 9 board members decided to let that frog in the race because a frog is a frog, whether it's a little frog or a black frog. Now, to top it off, I saw that frog on television. That frog was so big and he had big eyes and it looked like he looked straight at me, and I prayed to God that that frog would get in that race. And yesterday I had the opportunity to call Seattle, and they told me that although it originated there, it was being held in California. I called California, and at that time that frog had just won the race, and those news reporters was just laughing, and they say, a lady from Oklahoma wants to know about the frog. Who won? So that frog won. He didn't take but one jump, and he won the prize.
Bless the frog's heart.
Oh, yes, so we can celebrate. If the frog can do it, we can do it. Well, I see some more for descendants, and I understand that down at OU, those descendants of those people that weren't allowed to enter the race are really playing down there. Lady, I'm going to have to go, and thank you so very kindly, and I look forward to seeing all of my friends in Boley, Oklahoma at 4:30.
Oh, okay. Do have a nice trip.
Okay, bye-bye.
As we celebrate the birthday of Martin Luther King, I want you to know that we are in trouble. We are in trouble in America, namely in Oklahoma City. We have seen what happened in Boston, where an innocent black man was thrown into jail. We've seen hundreds of black men searched in Boston. And we've seen the fact that in Oklahoma City, and in the state of Oklahoma, we have cities like Bethany, Choctaw. We have cities like Edmond, where the Central State University is located, where they are teaching people about democracy, freedom, justice. Edmond is open. Thank God, because they understand liberty, freedom, and justice. Norman, Oklahoma is open because they understand the white man's brand of freedom, justice, and equality. When I looked at the paper and found out that Norman, the home of Oklahoma University, the city hall was going to be open, I couldn't believe it. All the thousands of dollars that that university have made out of minorities, and they say that we want minorities, we want minority teachers, and then insult every black person, every white person that believe in freedom. That's where I would like to pick it on Monday. Maybe that would be my choice. Norman, Oklahoma, the home of Oklahoma University. This is the Clara Luper radio show, and we are going to look and see what's happening here in Oklahoma City. And who would know better than what's happening than a man that has suffered discrimination because he stood up for what is right. And I've invited Reverend Lawrence to come here today on this my Martin Luther King special program and tell me what's happening at Tinker Air Force.
Hello, Mrs. Luper.
Hello.
The discrimination at Tinker Air Force Base is running rampant at this time, and many of the conditions of discrimination is being enforced on black employees by black supervision. A lot of this discrimination is being mandated to remove black employees from Tinker Air Force Base. Many of the conditions are individual, where they've singled black employees out in an individual way, not to more or less discriminate in a group form, but the fact that they're doing it, and they're also using black supervision to do so. Much of the discrimination also, if I must add also, is not only just black discrimination or white on black discrimination, but also it's on female discrimination. And the buddy system at Tinker Air Force Base is rampant. Many of the conditions are well noted by the Division of Personnel, whereas I have been able to contact the people of Personnel Division at Tinker Air Force Base, and I find that with the consent of the personnel director, that they are aware of the discrimination, and they are watching it, and they're concerned about how this discrimination is going base-wide. But there seems to be nothing to change the fact that it's happening. It's still going on, and it's getting worse. So I would probably say the worst thing that we can look forward to now is the fact that black employees are going to be losing their jobs, not because of any infractions caused by them, but because of the discriminatory practice at Tinker Air Force Base left by some of the officials at Tinker.
You mean to tell me that's going on at Tinkerfield? I can see why they don't care enough about Martin Luther King to close City Hall. Maybe those are vibrations that are coming in from Tinker Air Force.
Yes, Ms. Luper, this is, I think, Oklahoma, we're in a racial belt here, and as you can see by these institutions that are leaving their doors open and having business as usual. And Tinker Air Force Base is probably one of the largest, or is the largest employee of Oklahoma State. And it is amazing that there is no stop to it. It's getting worse. We've contacted all of our congressional leaders. We've met with them. We've explained to them some of the situations going on at Tinker Air Force Base, and we're still looking for answers. We're asking those people in high places, we might say, that could look into some of this and find out, and they'll find out probably some of their relatives are being discriminated against, white and black.
At Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma City, yes.
In Midwest City.
In
Don't say
Midwest
Oklahoma
City.
City,
In
because
Midwest
Oklahoma City respects Martin Luther King. Oklahoma City respects a federal law. But Midwest City does not respect a federal law, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to call President Bush and let him know. I'm going to call the president, but I'm going to lead a picket line at one of these cities. I wonder which one I'll select. Maybe I'll say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Here goes a city that does not care. And you're telling me that out there, now what has happened to you personally?
Personally, it's happened to me that I have been outspoken about the racial discrimination at Tinker Air Force Base, and my name has become a household word. And every foreman that I've chose to work under and had been assigned to work under has personally taken it upon themselves that they're going to fire me to make a name for themselves.
they're going to fire you
Yes, ma'am.
in order to make a name for yourself because you stood up for right. You're not an Uncle Tom, so they're going to fire you. If you grin and say everything is all right, like the black people will do in the cities that I told you is closed, grin at the city officials and say everything is all right, oh my, I'm really proud of you. But let me tell you something that's happening out to Tinkerfield. I received a report that came in my statement, the teller. I know you're familiar with that,
Yes,
aren't you,
ma'am.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, did you know, and I want to open your eyes to what's happening in Tinkerfield's credit union.
Mm-hmm.
The members of the Tinkerfield's credit union's candidate qualifications review committee are accepting applications for candidates to the board of directors. Do you know how you can fill out an application blank, Mr. Reverend Lawrence?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me.
It's to go into the credit union and you receive the application and you fill it out and turn it into the officials there.
And then what happened?
I think it goes before the board.
Before the board?
Yes.
Okay, now this is really frightening to me because I'm a student of democracy and democratic belief. I understand that you have to do that by when? What's your time limit on it?
I don't recall the
You
time.
don't recall. I have called 50 credit union members, and none of them know when the deadline is, yet that was sent out as part of a report. Now, the deadline, before you can declare your intent to run, all materials must be received by 3 p.m. January the 22nd. And you don't know, and you're a leader out of Tinkerfield, and you don't know, and you're a member of the credit union, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, they have decided that unless you can get your application in by 3 p.m. on January the 22nd, 1990, you will not be able to run for anything. Now then, on part 5 of it, this really frightens me. They say that nominations or applications will not be accepted during the annual meeting. Now that's quite interesting because I know enough about presidential elections to know at a national presidential convention, you can nominate someone from the floor. Because one time, Bill Murray, at the time that Franklin D. Roosevelt was running, was nominated from the floor. Mm-hmm. Although he didn't get anywhere, he was nominated. But the officials at Tinkerfield's credit union say there will be no nominations during the annual meeting. Now, a review committee is going to have to review the provided candidate information and see if you are eligible. Probably that committee does not know that a man that killed a man became president of the United States. Maybe they didn't know that Andrew Jackson had killed a man. Suppose they had looked on Andrew Jackson's background and found out that he had killed a man, he couldn't become president. Yet a committee and a group of certified people, review committee, will sit down and determine who will run. Well, that has a bit of Russiaism in it, and it's frightening to someone that has studied at Langston University, at Oklahoma University, at Grayson High School, and through the Taft Institutes, the democratic procedures. Now, they are going to have an open forum, and you will have to state to them your concerns to credit union members. Now, what I would do if I were file for the board, I'm going to have to go out there and say, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, Mr. Boardman. And that's what they want you to do out to Tinkerfield.
Yes, ma'am.
They want you to be a yes person. Now, there are some basic questions that I must look at as I read about what's happening out there, because they say that in the credit committee's report, they say that the credit committee has changed significantly in 1989. For many years, the credit committee had the assistance of volunteers from Tinker Air Force Base who were credit union members, but not employees of the credit union. These volunteers assisted the credit committee by interviewing credit union members with unique individual financial problems or needs, and by auditing loans made by loan officers to assure sound lending practices. Now, from January to September 1989, they met with 258 members and gave up more than half of them credit needs. But as a result, I want you to listen to this, Reverend Lawrence. because I want to open your eyes. As a result of different bylaw interpretations, the use of the 9 volunteer assistants was discontinued in September of this year. Without the volunteers' assistance, the remaining credit committee could no longer accommodate individual member interviews on a routine basis. However, within the management structure, a member appeal process has been established and is under the oversight of the elected credit committee. Interviews with the credit committee are available after the management review process. Now, during this year, they state in their report, and this is Clara Luper, this is a supervisory committee report, the work has been curtailed due to requirements imposed by the State Banking Commission and the loss of the 3 alternate members. Therefore, there are some questions that Tinker feels credit union leaders must answer. Are the State Banking Commission's requirements so drastic that the work of one of the committees were curtailed? If so, what were those requirements? Are they new requirements? Has it just been put in? Will the open forum be announced in the little paper, the teller, or by letters to the members? Mm-hmm. Now, if you had gotten a letter, Reverend Lawrence, you would have known that you only had until January the what now?
22nd.
January 22nd to file, but you didn't get a letter, did you?
No, ma'am.
And no one else. Who are on the review committee? And what will the members of the credit union actually know? Well, I think as we open the eyes of the public, we're going to have to look at the candidates. Are they really supporting the interests of the Tinker Credit Union? Or did they favor a person on that union that broke the code of ethics? Or resigning? Now, there were some members that resigned because it's too hot, or because it's no fun anymore, or too much pressure. What kind of pressure was it? Define pressure. Define hot. Define no fun. Because if I want to have fun, I sure wouldn't get on a credit union board. If I wanted to have fun, I'd go down to OU to a basketball game. No, I can't go to OU because that's Norman, Oklahoma, where they aren't even recognizing King's birthday. Why did the credit committee stop meeting weekly and started meeting monthly? Were they getting paid for meeting weekly? I don't know. Was it to hinder the progress of the credit union? Now, if anybody from the credit union want to call me, my telephone number is 478-2103, or you may call me at home, 424-3949. And remember, when you call me, I'm not a refrigerator, and I'm not supposed to keep it. I'm going to tell it so everybody can know. And certainly, Reverend Lawrence, you have stood like a soldier, and we love you. We appreciate you. What else do you think we can do now?
We are attempting to meet with the personnel directors of Tinker Air Force Base and again with the base commander. And as you well know, General Bowden has been appointed to the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce. And we're looking at some of these political overtones that's going on. And actually, we see it on base, and we certainly are beginning to see it in the Oklahoma City government. And we're going to try to meet with them and try to create some type of meeting point, and as well as discuss some of the conditions of Tinker Air Force Base employment, and perhaps be working with some other entities throughout the community.
Well, we are ready now. I have more time. I retired, and I will be right there doing everything I can to help you, and you better believe it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being my guest. Is there anything else that you would like to tell the people? Because we've got to open their eyes of what's happening to our tax dollars.
Yes, ma'am. I would hope that all of Black Oklahoma would be out to this March Monday to make a show and to stand up and to maybe to announce to these communities that are keeping their city halls open. And I think it's very important that we make a stand. If it's cold, just bundle up and come on out. I think it's time we take a stand. Thank you.
Thank you, and we are looking for you. Some of you are calling me and say, may I be in the parade? And I'm answering you. You are black, and you are a black baby, and you're going to be black till you die. You should be in the parade. No one should have to send you an invitation. Nobody gave me an invitation. All I wanted to know was what time the parade would be. Now, you whites, you've been talking about how much you love black people and how much you want to see democracy work. Well, bring your beautiful white selves and your beautiful black selves and join the march. I shall be looking for you. Reverend C.J. Jeffrey Jr., President of the General Missionary Baptist Convention of Oklahoma, and his cabinet will be honored at an inaugural banquet on Friday, January the 19th, 1990 at 7 p.m. The speaker for this occasion will be the Reverend J.L. Davenport of St. John's Missionary Baptist Church of Lawton, Oklahoma. The affair is being held in the Student Center of Rose State College and is open to the public. Tickets may be secured by calling Oliver Stripling, the state treasurer, 728-2233 or 755-2927. Reverend J.S. Ross, second vice president, 424-6942. Next week, I shall tell you a story that you will not believe, but you're going to have to believe it because I'm going to give you the facts. In Oklahoma City, you have a federal office known as the EEOC. Now, Reverend Lawrence will tell you what that stands for, EEOC. What does that stand for, Reverend Lawrence?
Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
Now, here comes the big story. Here comes the shocker. The EEOC is headed now by a white gentleman by the name of Don Burris. They have some 6 black investigators. And the 6 black investigators were doing their job, which was to see to it that equal employment opportunities would become a reality. And guess what has happened, Reverend Lawrence? 4 of those 6 blacks are now on probation, and Don Burris is talking about firing one of them. Now, I was contacted by the people in the EEOC office in Dallas, Texas. They are sending to this radio station the information that Oklahoma City must know. We cannot sit down and let EEOC's executive director from Colorado, Don Burris, fire black investigators because they are doing what they are committed to do. Now, this is the same thing you are doing. Yes. You are a citizen of the United States, and you are committed to improve the city. And because you, the Tinkerfield, and because you are doing that, they are saying we don't need you anymore. The same thing is happening at EEOC. Now, I want to call his name, and I told the federal workers that I was not afraid of the Ku Klux Klans, because the Ku Klux Klans would not dare put on a robe and knock at my door. They would not dare put on a robe and go into the EEOC office. But I'm afraid of these supervisors and others. I'm afraid that they do not realize that our eyes are open and we know what to do. If you don't believe it, Mr. Don Burris, here we come. Mr. Don Burris, who's here on a big salary as an executive of EEOC, and the people that's trying to see what's going on, he's saying to them, you are investigating, and therefore everything you see is wrong. Don't you know we know a frog when we see a frog? Clara Luper reporting, and this is the Clara Luper radio show. This show is being made possible by Dr. Dow, your optometrist at 934 Northeast 8th Street. His telephone number is 235-0536. If his eyes, be sure and remember Dr. Dow. Sir Charles the Taylor say happy Martin Luther King's birthday, and he wished for each one of you a happy day. Sir Charles the Taylor is located at 4725 Southeast of 59th Street. You may call him at 672-5051 and be sure and tell him that you want a suit. You deserve a tailor-made suit. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to open your eyes. Let me open your eyes to the fact that Stephen Knight is the manager-owner of the Capitol Heritage Cafeteria, located in the State Capitol building. He's open from 10:30 a.m. every day. And I want you to go out. Now, let me tell you something. I want you to remember this, that I went out to the State Capitol to have lunch at the Capitol Heritage Cafeteria. I wanted to see with my own eyes the day that in the Capitol a black person would own and manage a restaurant or a cafeteria. And I want you to go and do the same thing. Now, when you walk in, I want you to look at the arrangements of the plants. I want you to look at the cleanliness.